Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Oh, let me tell you, we have a new star. A star is born, Elon. Now he is. Now he's an amazing guy.
Well, Elon Musk is now the richest person on the planet.
More than half the satellites in space are owned and controlled by one man.
Starting his own artificial intelligence company.
Well, he's a legitimate super genius. I mean, legitimate.
He says he's always voted for Democrats, but this year it will be different. He'll vote Republican.
There is a reason the U.S. government is so reliant on him.
Elon Musk is a scam artist, and he's done nothing.
Anything he does is fascinating to people.
Welcome to Elon Inc., Bloomberg's weekly podcast about Elon Musk. It's Wednesday, November 6th. You are hearing a little snippet from Donald Trump's victory speech very early this morning, in which he thanked his main backer, who also happens to be the subject of this podcast. I'm Max Chafkin, sitting in for David Papadopoulos, and joining me from San Francisco, where I think she's been up for most of the early morning, is Dana Hull. Hey, Dana.
Hey.
You sound so energized. You sound ready to go. How late did you stay up?
I stayed up until after midnight and then went to bed when it seemed pretty clear that the race was called and the blue wall was crumbling. And then I just didn't really sleep very well and just woke up this morning and I'm still just kind of like processing mentally what this all means. I mean, we've been doing this podcast for a year. And when we started it, I think it was because we knew that Musk's, influence in business and technology and all the different industries that he's disrupted was only growing more strong. I did not think a year ago that we would be sitting here, right after a blowout election with Musk being a main player.
The Department of Government Efficiency was spinning up to start cutting vast swaths of the federal bureaucracy, or at least that's what Donald Trump and Elon Musk have suggested. I mean, do you think it's fair to say that Elon won this election for Trump? Like, how much credit should we give him? He was Trump's biggest financial backer. I'd say his most important media backer, obviously a huge ally. But what's your just quick reaction to what this means for Elon or for Trump or for the country?
I mean, yes, I think that, it's tricky. If it had been narrower, if Trump had won Pennsylvania but lost in a lot of other states, then we could say that absolutely this was all Musk's influence because Musk really focused on Pennsylvania. But Trump gained everywhere. So, it's hard to quantify what Musk's influence was, but there's no doubt that Musk kind of created a permission structure for people who maybe would never have looked at Donald Trump to look at him among Tesla owners and SpaceX fans and tech people and other CEOs and people like Jeff Bezos. And he sort of opened the window to be listen, I'm all in on being MAGA. And he did so many things, going to the Butler rally, speaking at Madison Square Garden, using X, which he bought during the midterms in 2022 to really, kind of ally with the Trump talking points. And so, it's hard to quantify what the impact was, but it was enormous.
Yeah, I mean, I just think at the top line, it was just a huge win for a guy who obviously has had a lot of success in other domains, but not in politics. And you just have to sort of appreciate how sort of brazen this was and how bold, in a way that I guess Elon Musk has made his kind of signature. I mean, he went in bigger for Donald Trump than I think anybody probably outside of this podcast would have expected. He went harder to the right than I think almost anyone who's backed him or has, journalists who've covered him expected. And it looked very dangerous. And now, I mean, he's sitting pretty. How much influence he had, you put that aside, he backed the right horse.
Oh, yeah. And look at Tesla's stock today is skyrocketing. And Musk was at Mar-a-Lago last night. I mean, I think what surprised me was that, you and I had been kind of wargaming the scenarios. And yesterday was this really funny day where Musk was supposed to have a town hall at noon that came and went, and there was no sign of the town hall. And I was uh-oh, what's going on? And then all of a sudden he's doing the town hall from his plane as he's flying from Texas, where he voted to Mar-a-Lago. And I mean, you and I were listening to that together. Like, he was sounding kind of cautious. He's like, well, like, I'm optimistic that we'll prevail in Pennsylvania if, like, men get out and vote. And, like, we're giving rides to the Amish to make sure that they have transportation to the polls because they're not allowed to drive themselves. And I was like, okay, this doesn't sound so great. Like, I felt like he was sort of spinning it as, like, not a potential loss, but, like, he wasn't, I don't know. He was sort of being cautious. He
wasn't projecting confidence in any sense, right? It sounded he was dour Elon there on the flight to Mar-a-Lago, I thought.
Yeah, I felt like he was being like cautiously optimistic. And I think that this is the thing about that Tesla fans will say, like, don't bet against Elon. Like, he will put all of his chips on the table. When he has like conviction, he will make a decision and stick to it, and nothing will sway him. And it might seem crazy from the outside, but like, he has prevailed in business and technology and capitalism, and now basically being like an oligarch, because he does have this like conviction that is kind of peerless in the business world. And it's like just this fearlessness that he is right. And I think that, what I would like people who listen to this podcast to take away is that he bought Twitter. And then he basically had a massive influence on the election. And the two go hand in hand, obviously. And like, we live in a very increasingly fractured media environment, and you can't overstate the impact of Musk owning Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I was thinking of, there's so much to talk about, and I'm sure we will get to all of it, on the coming episodes and in the next episode of Citizen Elon, and probably for the next 4 years. But like, for me, people have been talking about the sort of money in politics basically my entire life. And I feel like this is the most, this is like the most extreme version. We have never seen anything like this. A lot of people during Trump's first presidency became much more powerful. Jared Kushner became more powerful. Peter Thiel became more powerful. Elon Musk before this was more powerful than any of those guys. And now, he's vaulted to a level of influence that I think you're right. I think we have to sort of think about it in the oligarch terms. He's both a state actor and a very, very wealthy capitalist. And that's something that, Trump is going to have to contend with. Democrats are going to have to contend with. And, citizens of the United States and the world will contend with over the next 4 years.
Well, and he's really like a transnational or trans-state actor. Like, he has incredible, ties to China. With Starlink operates in over 100 countries. He is, getting lithium from countries all over the world, and he has an enormous amount of power and leverage. And if you believe that Trump is transactional, I mean, it's very clear that the two of them are going to work together. I mean, this, and I know people have joked about this whole Department of Government efficiency and the cost cutting, but I think it's very real. I mean, I think that Elon is going to really reshape the federal government, and he's going to have carte blanche to do so. The Republicans also won the Senate. It looks like they might hang on to the House. Like, this is a guy who, is not shy about, I mean, the way that he has fired or let go of people at his companies could be very similar to the kind of way that he approaches the federal government.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. And I think it's really going to be more today, a day, less than 12 hours after the election was called. We're more just like starting to think about what questions are going to be asked. We don't know that much. I think the people who are on Trump's transition team don't know that much, right? This stuff is beginning right now. Dana, during that Twitter Spaces, that X Spaces on the flight to Mar-a-Lago, so Elon Musk started the day in Texas. He voted in South Texas, where he has his little house, where SpaceX's launch facility is. He got on the plane. He had this Spaces. They talked a lot about the election and how it was going. There was this moment I wanted to just focus on for a minute when Elon Musk talked about the America PAC going forward. Let's just listen to that tape.
So America PAC is going to keep going after this election and be preparing for the midterms and any intermediate elections, as well as looking at elections at the district attorney level and basically judicial sort of level, because I think we something needs to be done to kind of counter the damage that Soros has done to the American system.
Dana, we we called this. I mean, right? This is the America PAC is going to be a big political force going forward. That's what I take away from this clip.
Oh yeah, this was not a one-off. And when he's talking about Soros, he's obviously referring to George Soros, the financier who has funded several campaigns, including many progressive district attorneys in cities across the country, including the one in Philadelphia that tried to kind of stop the PAC from giving the $1 million giveaways. So I think that what Musk is basically saying is, look, money has always existed in politics. George Soros has funded a lot of campaigns on the left. Musk sees himself as like a countervailing point to that. Like, and now he's in it. He's going to be eyeing the midterms. He's going to be involved in local races. I'm curious to see if any people who work at his current companies are now going to be dispatched to work at his PAC. I mean, is he going to pick the best of the brightest and be like, you do the data analysis on this precinct? Like, I mean, working for Elon means that you have to be willing to kind of go wherever he wants you to go. And it's almost like he started a seventh company.
Absolutely. And, it's on one hand, you might say, is he really going to spend, $100+ million every 2 years on politics, which is kind of what, he's indicated he wants to be the anti-Soros. This comment here suggests he'd be a major donor. You might say, oh, like Elon Musk is not going to want to throw away that much money. But, you look at the price of Tesla stock this morning, and as we're recording, it's up 13.5% roughly. He has made, his net worth has gone up by, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and $15 billion, just in terms of his Tesla stock ownership as well. If you just look at this as like a pure return on investment, 185 million for 15 billion, like it looks pretty good.
Trump's win was a decisive victory. I mean, there's no split. Like, he won the popular vote, he won the Electoral College. There's no race that's still being contested. It was a decisive win for Trump. He won across all demographic groups, except for Black women. And, that's pretty striking. And that's something that I don't think, any of the pundit class saw. And I think that this is also just a win for X, because Musk is really going to position X as the leading platform for news. Now, granted, we've written a lot here at Bloomberg about the disinformation on that platform, but it is a hugely influential platform, and it's like a win. It's just a huge win for Elon that the platform exists, that he was able to buy it. Even though advertisers have left and a lot of high-value users have left, it is now going to be driving the conversation in Trump world, and it's almost kind of become what Truth Social never quite fully realized.
So, Dana, what do we think is actually going to happen now? I mean, obviously, Elon Musk, Donald Trump does not become president until early next year. I assume Elon Musk doesn't start his job, or it's not even clear if he has a job within the Trump White House yet. I mean, what are you going to be looking for over the next, month or so to try to figure out what he's planning on doing and how his sort of promises are actually going to translate into, I guess, policy?
Yeah, so when we were at Madison Square Garden together, I was kind of struck by the fact that Howard Lutnick, who is the chair of the transition team, introduced Musk as his Doge co-chair. So I think that Lutnick and Musk together are going to kind of chair this commission. It's not going to be a cabinet level thing because Musk doesn't want to have to unwind his investments in all of his companies. But it's not like a Senate, it's not like a cabinet level, but I think they're going to co-chair this thing, and they're going to take a look at the more than 400 federal agencies and the overlap between them. And they're going to cut, I mean, they're talking about cutting $2 trillion from the budget. That is an enormous, that is an enormous cut. So, how that will work in practice, I don't really know. I'm sort of starting to think about which agencies might come under Musk's, might come under fire. I think that the Department of Education is one that Musk is going to look at pretty carefully. I think that he probably has some thoughts about NHTSA and the Securities and Exchange Commission and the FTC and the FCC and the Fish and Wildlife Service and the FAA. I mean, he's openly said that he thinks...
You're naming agencies that he has tangled with in the past, which it's a long list, to be fair. I mean, if you cut all those agencies that have had a beef with Musk, you wouldn't have much of an executive branch. I mean, I think... So I just 2 points and two things I am watching. One is this stuff especially the kinds of things you're talking about, like, cutting the Department of Education or cutting $2 trillion from the federal budget. That's like going to be incredibly unpopular and also like difficult to execute if you even could do it. That's not to say like some of this stuff couldn't happen. I mean, I think one thing we learned over this election is that Elon Musk and Donald Trump are really good at taking unpopular positions and finding a constituency. And like, if you have a passionate but small constituency for some position, they managed to transform that, into a successful presidential campaign. We did an episode of this podcast, I don't know, 8 months ago, talking about how unpopular Elon Musk was with the electorate. And you can look at Donald Trump's polling numbers, and they weren't super great going into this election. So I think, it's possible that the sort of marketing genius of these two men will turn things around. But I think the thing that I am more focused on is sort of the last part of what you said. Like, there are going to be questions about who should run the SEC, who should run the FTC. Should those policies be more favorable to business, to tech businesses, and in particular to one tech entrepreneur, Elon Musk? And I think we should expect Elon to exercise a real influence there. He has already said, he's already talked about trying to push Lina Khan, the chair of the FTC, out. I think there's an expectation he would definitely go after Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC. So that, I think that is kind of like the more immediate thing. And then, who knows? I mean, this guy has tried crazy stuff in the past, stuff that I think a lot of people didn't expect, and that could certainly happen.
Yeah, I mean, he's also called for the head of the FAA to resign. I mean, he's got, and I think what concerns me as a citizen is that Musk and Trump hold grudges. I mean, these are men who will never forget the snubs and the slights that they have endured throughout their careers when they were doubted. And as you have spoken so eloquently on Citizen Elon, the snub with Biden not inviting him to the EV summit, like that kind of helped to kick off this whole thing. And so I just think that there's going to be some retribution involved in terms of, which agencies have been the biggest thorn in Elon's side. And back to the Department of Education, this is another kind of trove that we need to get into more. But if you look at who donated to Musk's PAC, most of the money came from Musk himself, and then other friends from Silicon Valley like Sean McGuire, Doug Leone from Sequoia, Antonio Gracias also donated, but like Betsy DeVos donated to the America PAC. Like, she's the former Secretary of Education. So there's some very interesting bedfellows happening. And I think it's going to take an enormous amount of journalism and investigative reporting to really figure out what's going on now.
And podcasting. And we will be there. We will be
every
there
Tuesday
to catalog it and to interpret it. I think there are going to be tons of questions, both for the businesses, for the stock market, and of course for the government in the weeks and months that follow. Dana, thanks for joining us. Hope you can get some sleep.
Always a pleasure.
I'll see you on Slack in 5 minutes. This episode was produced by Stacey Wong. Anna Mazarakis is our editor, and Rehan Harmansi, our senior editor. The idea for this very show also came from Rehan. Blake Maples handles engineering, and Emma Sanchez fact-checks. Our supervising producer is Magnus Henriksen. The Elon Inc. theme is written and performed by Taka Yasuzawa and Alex Sugiura. Brendan Francis Noonan is our executive producer, and Sage Bauman is the head of Bloomberg Podcasts. A big thanks to our supporters Joel Weber and Brad Stone. I'm Max Chafkin. If you have a minute, rate and review our show. It'll help other listeners find us. We'll see you next week.